frames rather than this gradual exponential rise?
Well, yeah, most of the curves are something like this or something like this, and our leading climatologist, he's not a glaciologist, Jim Hansen, who is, in 1980 was speaking to Congress, 1981, telling us what it was going to be like in the year 2000 because of global warming. He's right on, and what he has been putting out since about 2007 is there a good chance we'll be at 5 meters, 16, 17 feet by the end of the century. He just came out with a very strong paper, and he gets the concept of ice sheet disintegration. And there's a model came out, I've been criticizing models, but there's a model came out in 2009 that said, if I had a big piece of ice, like Greenland, I could melt it in 1,000 years if I warmed the atmosphere. If I fractured it every 20 meters, so the meltwater could dribble down and soften the ice and so on, I could melt it in a couple decades. And that seems to be the reality that at least I see from how ice works. Sometimes scientists are too close to their little area to see the bigger picture, I think. So you can comment if you want on it.
Well, I think people should realize that it's probably not going to be an exponential rise or slow exponential rise.
No.
It'll be jerky. There'll be periods of still stand and periods of very rapid rise. If the past is any kind of predictor of the future. And so is it possible to predict those very sudden catastrophic rises that may occur in a 5-10 year period where sea level just goes crazy for a short period of time and then there's a snowstorm?
We see happening in the last decade. The great ice melt in Greenland and Antarctica really seems to have picked up about mid-1990s. We now have the warmed ocean water getting deeply in under the outlet fjords and glaciers of both Greenland, under the West Antarctic ice sheet area, and now under the East Antarctic ice sheet area. And for instance, Lynn and I were up in Greenland a couple years ago, and the front of the ice coming through the collapsing cabin face in the Dacre Fjord was picked up from a couple miles forward speed of the ice a year to about 20. And it was like 4 big calving events a day. It was spectacular. And this summer, over a 4-day period, 5 miles of ice came in out of that fjord because of the warm water getting underneath. This, as far as I can see, is starting to spin out of control. The warmed ocean water is getting in and melting ice over 100 miles in under the fjords in the East Antarctic ice sheet. And this was not happening in 1990. This should be very worrisome. And this is probably the beginning of one of these rapid pulses of sea level rise. Sharon Joy Fudge?
Thank you. Appreciate your fine summary, your paper, and this morning. And I'm jumping ahead, as this is part of the deal, is policy issues.
Good.
And actually your last item. That's my proclivity, is what are we going to do about it, and where the rest of us, where we focus as part of this conversation. So your final point is initiate intensive education for the affected public. And it seems to me you have such a great opportunity down there in your neighborhood in Miami, because I understand 2 of your congressmen are supporting a resolution that was proposed last week, I believe, among the Republicans, that this is indeed a serious moral issue. And I understand there's a King Tide tour planned. And what I thought might be helpful to help educate the public is for these representatives to invite their fellow neighbors, the 2 folks who are running for presidency, Jeb Bush and Rubio, to come with them on the King Tide tour, because as I understand it, they are not believing that this is real. So it seems like this is a great opportunity for policy among decision makers to not hear a lecture, but to actually experience it. And as I understand from watching the mayor on TV the other night, they're fish swimming out there in the streets.
Wow, you gave a lot of things to talk about. first of all, there's something called the climate lobby that Sarah has been lead as a global thing or a national thing. And their sole purpose is try to create a carbon tax through Congress. And he led a charge to try to get every Republican congressman south of Orlando to sign on as co-sponsors of this climate change bill in the Congress. And you can thank Jay and the mayors of South Florida who met with Ileana and others to make this happen. But they're starting to get it, that the areas they're in charge of are highly, highly at risk. And it's a pretty sad statement that we have two presidential candidates that live in South Florida, in the Miami area, in the county, that don't buy into this and mistakenly think the economics make it impossible to deal with. Blame the Chinese. No. Per capita, we're still the problem. And a lot of what they're doing there is making it crap for us to buy. So, you know, it's really a very misguided thing. The world is waiting for the United States to show leadership in this, and they will follow. Europe's already ahead of this. India's walking because they're still trying to get their economy and industry up where they want it to be. But, yeah, we've had so many questions on that. What was it?
Well, to conclude, you have a great learning opportunity available in your neighborhood this month.
We do. And believe me, Lynn and I met with Rubio at a fundraiser back when he was running for Congress. I handed him a letter. I'd already mailed him one saying I'd be glad to put together a group of top scientists to help him understand the reality of climate change. And he looked at me and he said, "You really believe this is real?" I said, "I don't believe, I know it's real." And then somebody, the Tea Party or something, gave him another agenda he had to follow to get elected, and he did that. But, you know, the only purpose, in my understanding, of an elected official is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the businesses and the people in their community or county or state. And if you've sold your soul to somebody else, you're not serving any intended democratic purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that you have short questions and short answers.
I'm not
But now we have no questions to the audience. So all this conversation is extremely productive, no doubt about it. But we want to make sure we don't wander into the parochial too much, either side of the conversation or not. These are great suggestions, don't mishear me. We want to stay with the evidence of the science and what the meaning to the community is. So appreciate that. We have a couple questions in the audience. If you want to identify yourself, please raise your hand. As the ice sheets melt in Greenland and Antarctica, is water evenly distributed across the globe, or are some areas impacted more than others? Anybody want to identify themselves?
Over there.
Okay, there we go. There's the question.
If you throw more ice cubes into your pool, they will affect the whole level of the pool. There are many things that affect local sea level, including the speed of the currents and so on. You know, an iceberg rise above water level. It floats like an ice cube, with about 6/7 of it or so below the water level. Around Antarctica right now, the water level around Antarctica is about 8 inches higher than the rest of the ocean. That's because so much fresh water is coming out that it's behaving sort of like a giant iceberg around. So it is higher because of the fresh water, and that'll gradually mix and spread out through the rest of the world's oceans. That also is why we had the most extensive floating pack ice last winter, July, in Antarctica. And Irish said, well, that means climate change is over. No, that means it's easier to freeze fresh water than salt water.
Second question, how does sea rise phenomena affect agriculture? Person, anybody?
Right here.
Okay, there you go.
look at all the deltas of the world. I told you that with a 3-foot rise of sea level, most of our barrier islands are gonna be being abandoned, and we're gonna have huge migration of, not political refugees, I don't know if they're economic refugees, they just have to get away from the water. But we're gonna have to incorporate them into society all over the world. The deltas, some of them are a little higher, but so much agriculture is in our deltas that this should be a massive concern to this last sentence I have about diving into chaos and civilization collapsing. Our food resources are so critical. There was just a study, I have it with me if you want to look at it. There was a competition to see how to save the Mississippi Delta. And every engineering firm and everything else that looked at this said you should abandon the lower delta and trap the sediment, helping to try to hold on to the upper part of the delta above New Orleans. Wow. Wow. And that wasn't some group of scientists saying it. That was a competition of how to design a program to save the delta. Sea level rise, not enough sediment to keep up with sea level rise. We've already degraded it to the point that turn it around is impossible. And that's a major step. And they won't, we did this back right after Katrina. There was a major group. I gave talks to the governor, to the Council of Environmental Quality, and the White House, all of their invitations about how to do this. Oh, we can't do that. That would sacrifice Jeff Harris and so on. So we can screw it up, but we can't undo it. And now with sea level rise, wow.
The Institute convened a meeting at Cornell University last year. It's a signature meeting, 4 days, and the book from that is outside. It was on the effective environment. David Clement.
Thank you, Dr. Wanless. And my question builds on Dr. Connor's earlier question about solutions, but more specifically, if you were czar of Florida or even the U.S., what would be the actions you would take to deal with not a 6 foot rise by the end of the century when everyone in this room will be gone, and even maybe our grandchildren, maybe a few of them will still be here, or a 3 foot rise by 2065 when few of us will be here, but a 2 foot rise in 2048 when most of us hope to be here. What would you do first?
What would I do first?
If you were czar, you had a czar-like authority, because it seems to me what you're saying almost would require us as a country to do such authority, such power.
Yeah, they say, you know, when you tell about sea level rise, you're called a saint because you're informing people. When you tell them what to do, you're called a dictator and a czar and a bad guy. But it's very hard on a 2 to 4 year, 6 year election cycle to really affect change and get reelected, because there are a lot of uncomfortable things to do. If I were the czar, I would first have every community and county give honest, open, transparent analysis of what they have, what they're working with. I would make sure that, and the economics of maintaining the infrastructure and the honest conclusions of combining all that to realize when you can no longer, either economically or because of safety, maintain a viable infrastructure for certain sectors of the community. And I've put things in there about stopping massive developments on low-lying areas and barrier islands. You know, 2048 is not very far away. I would have the governments work with all the insurance and reinsurance companies to come to an agreement that this community sector of the community at another 1.5 foot of sea level rise or 2 or wherever it is will no longer be able to be covered by insurance. That's a reality. We can plan for it, you know, and yeah, there are others.
Okay, Peter Clark.
So this is kind of a similar type of question. You made a very interesting comment earlier on that the insurance industry maybe knows more about sea level rise than many of the scientists around the country. Well, what are they doing about it now? What kind of things are they looking at in the future? And how will the insurance industry kind of drive the public perception, public identification of the problems, and what ultimately they will need to do in the future?
I can't speak for the insurance company, but it's obvious that there are many homes being bought today in Florida that probably will not be sellable within the end of the mortgage cycle. They're too low. I was over on Miami Beach. Can we show that little clip I had? Is that possible? I have about a 20-second clip that drives home. Okay. I was over with a lady from the New Yorker magazine, and she was looking at the king tide and talking about sea level rise. So here we see the canal that the water's coming in down the street. This is like, this climate change sucks, you know? I mean, look at this. And to use the kids' terms, look at this. Here's your garage you're supposed to drive into. And the water is actually pouring in. I mean, we are at such risk right now. And I was talking to the people there. Look at this. This is unbelievable. And we're gonna, another foot on top of this? Another 2 feet on top of this? People are starting to move off Miami Beach. They have. And so I appreciate the dean's concerns and the hopes that we can turn this around. But with the warmed ocean, we can't. This is what we're in for, and we should plan honestly for it. And we shouldn't let things like that, or 230 new condominium buildings are being built in Miami-Dade County right now on Miami Beach. Other areas, no consideration for location, elevation, infrastructure, quality of the concrete with respect to seawall.
Okay, so we're about halfway through the debate, huh? So I know you have a lot of questions. We're going to go as quickly as we can. I'm on the advisory board for Swiss Re, which is the largest reinsurance company in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you what they're going to do.
I want to hear.
They're going to do two things. One is they're going to, as you said very correctly, going to offer policies that are not very attractive, or no policies. And they're going to undercut your bank account in the stock market, because the impact of those insurance company decisions will influence every company that has an investment anywhere in the portfolio. A lot of companies have land, have corporations, buildings on land that are impacted by your point. The only thing I'd like to do now at this juncture in the debate is shift as much as we can to the questions that have been implied by Ken Howe. You were offered the position of benevolent dictator a moment ago, I think, right? I think it's a 5-year appointment. You have to live in Switzerland in the mountains, well up and away from the water. I think it would be very helpful to this community if we focused on what people want to suggest that you're going to do. We know there's a problem. You beautifully described it, illustrated it for the part of the community which is relevant to certainly St. Petersburg.